All right. We're going to start this cram session race. My name is Chris McDonald with RunSignup, and I've got with me Todd Hinderlong, who's going to be chatting about real races, Megan Silva-Schultz, who's going to be specifically talking about challenges, and then Jonathan Farrell, who will be discussing the Women's Distance Festival. And these are cram sessions. We're probably going to move fairly quickly. We may have time to answer questions. So for any of you that do have questions, feel free on the GoToWebinar control panel. There is a questions tab. You can type in your question. We have Johanna and Natalie with us that are answering those. So feel free to type in your question. If we seem to be getting the same question over and over and over again, we'll make sure to bring it up and discuss. Otherwise, we're going to keep pushing through. So with that being said, we're going to get going on just a general overview of a recent event or events that these guys have been involved with. So we'll start with Todd, who has been putting on some in-person events. So you want to give us a brief description of one or more of the recent events that you've been putting on.
Yeah, we've actually put on, I had to count it up today, we've put on 15 events since May, and we've actually had a couple weekends we've had more than one event at a time. So we have an event management company and we own a race timing company. So we do some of our own events and we help out other events as well. We've been kind of using a different way of doing things at various races to see what works best. We last weekend, 2 weekends ago, did an event, had 900 people registered. I think we had 600 people that actually did packet pickup, and I think the finishers were 450 or something like that. It was an event that was originally scheduled in April that got postponed, so there's a lot of people that signed up that stayed signed up that didn't run. And the way that we did that was by alphabet. We pretty much asked the folks to, we set out 10-minute time windows and we just broke it up by alphabet wherever it was about 100 people. And so I think it ended up being A to B, D to E, F to, whatever, until we had like 100 people. And we found that we can get about 100 people across the start line and maintain safe distancing very easily. And that's worked very well because we had people already registered. We had to go the alphabet route when it's a new event and we don't have any participants registered. We use the corral feature and RunSignup, and then people have to select a starting time window and we can limit how many people can come to the start line at any given time. And the key to that is not only the start line, and I think that's what we're finding. And I know we'll get down the road talking about, how to get your local governments to embrace these ideas. But we're finding the key is not just the start line, it's how many people are coming and going from the event at any given time, how many people are going to be on premise at any given time. And I think if we can, what our success has been is trying to let the governing bodies know that it is not a 400-person event. It is a day-long event that will have 14 people participating at various times throughout the day. And so that's kind of been how we've worked it. We've smaller 100, 200 people races. We just basically say, hey, start line's going to be open for 15 minutes. We make an announcement, start line's open. People can go whenever they're ready. But that's kind of been the key of what we've been doing.
Gotcha. Excellent. And really quickly, what state are you in?
We're in Indiana. We live in Northwest. I'm in Northwest Indiana. We're on the southern tip of Lake Michigan. We're about 40 minutes outside Chicago, so we technically are a Chicago suburb. I like to say we're Indiana's redheaded stepchild. They don't claim us, and we don't claim them a whole lot, but we are governed by the state of Indiana.
Right. All right. And so, Megan, you want to discuss the Great American 5000?
Yeah. So we launched, this was a virtual challenge team event. We launched Great American 5000 back in May and kind of kicked things off with the event. I'll give a quick description. Basically, it's a virtual challenge, team-oriented, running from San Francisco to New York. And so you could have teams of 12 or 24 And basically you would, as an individual, go out, run or walk, log your miles, then via RunSignup, and then those miles would collectively move your team's dot across the map. And so you were racing across the country virtually. And so we developed the event, obviously, like when everyone else was unable to do things in person. It was a way for us to really generate some revenue for the organization, and also came at a really important time in terms of just generating camaraderie, generating some connection. We found that going the team route for the virtual challenge was interesting because it gave us some built-in kind of recruiters, if you will. So you had a team captain that was out recruiting 12 people to be on, or 11 other people to be on their team, or in some cases 23 other people. And so that was a nice kind of built-in recruiter for us. But what we found was that team piece of it really drove a ton of accountability and a ton of connection. So I think two things that ton of people are craving these days, and so our Great American 5000 really hit on those two things specifically, and it's still going on right now. So as I said, we launched in May, and then the event itself, the challenge, started June 14th, and then things will wrap up September 11th. So we have a good chunk of our teams already at the finish line at this point, but there's also a ton of dots still out on the map, people still logging miles. So yeah.
Cool, excellent. And this was not an event that went virtual. This was something that you guys started
Yes.
as a virtual challenge. So just clarification for those of you on the call. So awesome. And then Jonathan, how about tell us a bit about the Women's Distance Festival and that process of moving to a fully virtual event.
Yeah, so I've worn some many hats in my time as a runner, as a race director, working with timers, club president, and now as a RunSignup software developer. So I've seen a lot. The Women's Distance Festival is one of the races that I've worked with. It's a local race around me. I've worked with them for about 10 years now. It's a local 5K, women only, and we've grown the race to be pretty strong for a local event. We have typically over 1,000 women that come out and race. We get some fast women. I think the course record's 16 minutes and change. So it's a great event, and it supports a local charity called the Center for Safety and Change. And they have a great cause where they support house and provide services to victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, and all kind of crimes like that. So they're a local charity that we support, and they support us, and we work really well together. The race is always the second Saturday in July, and there's really a big community sense around it. People always rally together. It's a great day. This year, obviously, things got a little dicey, and we made the decision pretty early to switch to virtual. We still wanted to have the event. We still wanted to raise money for the charity. We still wanted to bring that sense of community, and we wanted everyone to feel together. That was kind of the important thing for us, and it turned out to be hugely successful for us. And it really it gave everyone a sense of community and something to rally around and come together in a time where everyone felt really distant and they felt isolated and they were social distancing, but we could still come together around this cause and support it. So we had a great time, and we had our new set of challenges, but we also had headaches we didn't have to deal with because it wasn't an in-person event. But all around, it was a huge success.
Awesome. So we'll go through for all of you, because the dynamic on this next question is it changes significantly. Todd's might be the most normal, but maybe not. And that is in terms of in a normal race scenario, you have years and years of back data in terms of the last 2 weeks. We're projecting to get a 20% bump in registrations. or generate this much more revenue from ad campaigns. So for each of you, and we'll just go through the line on this, what was your process with budgeting for this year's event? And then also, how did you set your expectations for participation? And then did you feel like they were met or on point, or if they were or were not, how did you adjust those expectations so that your new ways of projections were more accurate? So that's kind of a long question, but I think everybody got it. So we'll start with Megan this time, since she started with a brand new type of event, and go from there.
Yeah, so Great American 5000, I'll tell folks we ended up with 45 or just under 4,600 total participants, and that's across 253 teams. Going into the event, we were fairly conservative because we didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I think our initial kind of budget featured 2,000 total participants, and this was right at the time that the Run Across Tennessee had launched and taken off. So we had, we were very hopeful, yet we did budget conservatively, just because we didn't know what to expect. It was certainly our first time kind of giving the virtual challenge world a run for it. So in terms of ordering, we again were really conservative. We decided that we were going to be upfront with participants that they weren't going to receive their stuff until they finished, until registration closed. And so our registration window, we again opened in May. The event started June 14th, and we kept registration open through July 31st. So we didn't want to take the risk of ordering and then having to reorder, and so we just managed expectations up front in terms of when folks would receive stuff. I will say, moving forward we just launched another virtual challenge yesterday called Great European 2500, so similar concept, just to run across Europe. And we'll be a lot more aggressive with our ordering. That was one area where we thought we definitely know we can improve, just because we need to get people their stuff sooner. So that was more of a function of we kind of knew we weren't going to get people their stuff as soon as maybe we would have liked to. Sweetie, yes. Sorry. So, that the ordering thing was interesting. We even learned, we launched an event called the Firecracker 4 Miler, which was a July 4th event. And that one, we managed expectations with the ordering by saying, if you register by X date, you'll receive your stuff before July 4th. So just right away, the ordering piece of it definitely was a challenge, because that is where your expense is in the swag. And so, I think we definitely learned a variety of ways to kind of help manage that a little bit better. We did, with Great American, we did make sure to call it finisher items. So it allowed us to kind of spread out our mailings. So we've basically, at this point, completely caught up on all of our mailings. And now as teams finish, we will just be mailing things out. And so, it was definitely, it has been a learning process for sure. And like I said, the fulfillment side, just doing that quicker is one place we know we can improve and plan on improving coming up. And so, yeah, and we were updating projections throughout the whole thing. We hit 2,000, and it was like, this is going really well. We don't have trends, but we know over the last 2 weeks, and even on the marketing side, I would say we were conservative to spend money. We really relied on ambassadors for us, so some influencers to help get the word out. And again, I go back to the team concept. That team concept really helped drive registrations, in our opinion. There was, again, built-in people that were recruiting for us, so that was really helpful as well.
Awesome. So it sounds like just staying cautious was the name of the game for the new
For
venture?
us at that time
Um,
specifically, for sure, we were definitely
Right.
cautious at that time. We
Right.
probably, and we'll remain cautious, but I think, you know, we have at least now some background when it comes to that ordering piece. So
Sure. So, Jonathan, you probably fall into the category that more people are interested in, specifically because this was an in-person event. It went to a virtual event. So, in terms of budgeting and projections, how did you guys manage that side?
So we pretty much stayed the course. We trusted the numbers and trusted the trends that we'd seen in the past. Luckily, the race director is he's a financial advisor, and he loves numbers and he loves graphs and he can read all of that. And we have a very unique relationship where he tends, it's almost like the angel and the devil, where he tends to have these grand big visions of what's going to happen and all these numbers that we're going to get. He's kind of the dreamer, and I kind of pull us back. I try to be more realistic and talk him off the cliff and set expectations. And in the past, it's happened this way, and this year definitely happened this way, where we pulled each other in and kept things very real. I mean, one of the first big things with budgeting is we lost expenses, right? Things we didn't have to do. We didn't have the timers, we didn't have mats, we didn't have a lot of, you know, the water, a lot of stuff that we didn't normally pay for. So we tried to roll some of that into additional swag and incentives for people to come out and do the virtual race. Again, those costs were pretty offset, so there's still less money to get the additional stuff than all of the stuff we would have paid for an in-person event. Another blessing we had was we found a new t-shirt printer. Was someone local who kind of rose to the occasion. We just met and they came forward, their little local shop, and said, we want to help out the race, what can we do? So they were able to print on demand for us. So we didn't have to get them that final number like we were used to doing, which was a huge stress off of our shoulders. And they were also able to drop ship for us. So their cost was $6. So we just put it on as an add-on in the race that if you want your package shipped to you, it's an additional $6. It'll be there before race day. So they were great. They made things a lot easier because people could just, as they register, they see if they want it shipped. As soon as they get the order, these guys are printing stuff out, putting the bags together and sending it right out to them. So it turned out to be really great. Looking at expectations, this is kind of where like Mike and I would struggle with each other. Like I mentioned, our race is usually around 1,000 women. He had set up the goal last year to have 1,111 women, and he started promoting it with the hashtag WDF Make a Wish 1111. So that was his expectation. When we switched virtual, I instantly say, Mike, we gotta think about this. Like if we get a few hundred, I was thinking like between 400 and 600. I'm like, we gotta call that a success. And he wouldn't listen to me. He was projecting 1,200. So some of the other stuff, like we ordered some of the other swag, we had to put orders in. So he was increasing numbers, and I was trying to step him back. At one point, we were getting up to ordering 1,600 quantities of items, and we stepped it back. And in the end, we got lucky and kind of nailed it. We ended the race with let me check my notes. 1,279 runners. So he hit that 1,200 on the head, and we did really well. So managing that expectation was tough because he wanted to cut certain when we were looking at the budgeting, cutting certain coupons that we would normally give out in order to order more face masks or order more water bottles. So we decided not to do that because swag is swag, but we wanted to keep things feeling as normal as possible. We didn't extend registration. We didn't do anything differently. We kept our email marketing kind of the same because we wanted people to feel like this was just the normal women's distance festival that they were used to.
Gotcha. Excellent. And congrats on significant growth when switching over. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, and that was a record year for us. That was the most registrants we ever had. So we did good.
For the win. All right, Todd, what about real racing in coronavirus? You know, you're putting on real races. You know, are your projections similar to what they were in 2019 when you're looking at your tracking? Are you budgeting the same way?
Well, we've always been fairly conservative the way we budget a race anyway. I mean, we feel that we're going to have certain fixed expenses and there's variable expenses like the shirts and various things that you only have to buy when you have so many participants. So we have worked out some deals with vendors and where we get our stuff where we can place a lot of our orders last minute. I mean, relatively last minute. So we've, our budgeting really hasn't changed, but what is become exceptionally difficult is how to plan for how many people, because over the course of past 3 years, we've been seeing that people have been waiting to register for races. To begin with, in the pandemic environment, people are waiting to the absolute last minute because they're waiting to have the race cancel. I mean, I can't tell you how many emails I get. We're going to put on a full and a half marathon November 1st. And I keep getting, what if you cancel? What if you cancel? What if you cancel? And I'm like, we're not going to cancel. We've got all of our approvals, and short of the state of Indiana shutting down and having a stay-at-home order, we're good to go. But everyone is waiting. So that's the challenge, is how do you plan, if it's a new event, or even if it's not a new event, how are you going to figure out how many people you're going to get? So that's been a real challenge. What's nice is, because we have real concerns at some of our locations about how many people we can handle safely, we have to put caps on our races. And I mean, while it's not great to have to turn people away, it certainly makes your life easier if your race sells out 3 weeks beforehand. So that's kind of where we're looking at right now. I don't think I've had maybe 1 or 2 that have hit a cap. Most have been close. Most have gotten what we would expect to get for the events that we had. But we're just now putting the final touches on what we're going to do for our turkey trots, and I would expect those numbers are going to have to be severely capped. We normally have 4,000 at our local one that we're involved with, and we're going to have to put that cap down to probably 1,500. So we'll expect that to sell out right away, and then you can deal with that. And this is what we've been doing, is we have, for all of our races, we do finisher medals. Well, for the smaller races, we have a more generic finisher medal. For the bigger races, we have a custom finish medal. So what we've made the decision on is, if the race sells out, we'll do a nicer finisher medal. If it's not sold out, we're going to do a generic one that we can reuse some other time. So it's just, I don't know, kind of being creative, but it's definitely almost impossible to plan because everybody is so cautious. There have been so many people got burned by races that canceled that didn't offer refunds. They're very, very hesitant to sign up until they're absolutely 100% sure the race is going to go.
Makes sense. Well, I think one person did ask, most of your events are in parks or on the road?
We've been doing a little mix of both. And when we first started doing the live races, we were doing them in parks where we could lock down the course for several hours. We were extremely conservative with how many people we would have starting at any given time slot. We have starting windows. So
I'm still here. I had to turn off my webcam.
We've had a couple where the roads are not closed, but we felt that they could be secured, and people at police at corners that might be of, hazardous. And so we've been doing a mix.
Excellent. Well, on to some more specific questions for Jonathan. So what kind of how did you handle the bibs and packets? It sounded like did you use that local company, or were you guys doing fulfillment on your own?
So we did fulfillment on our own. The bibs, we used the feature in RunSignup to do the customized digital bibs. So we got that set up, and we had the participants print those out themselves, which worked out great. Everyone loved them. For the pickup, we actually did a packet pickup, socially distanced version of a packet pickup that was all outdoors. Luckily, we had the Center for Safety and Change, which has a nice parking lot and a nice kind of flow to get through. So it turned out to be a beautiful thing. I wish I had a video of how well it worked, but it was all the cars would drive in. There was a volunteer waiting right there when they came in with their cell phone, taking notes of, what's your name, their face masks on, everything. You'd be in the car, roll down your window, Jonathan Farrell, okay, and they check you in, go to the next stop, you drive around, the next stop you get your bag, the next stop you get your swag, and there was kind of these checkpoints, so the participants never even had to get out of their car. All of the volunteers were just working with each other. As soon as they were checked in, the person on the other side knew what bag to get and handed it right to the car. So there was even with a line, cars were going right through in a matter of minutes. No one was touching each other or dealing with each other. Everyone was distanced, and it worked beautifully.
Awesome. So we actually have several questions for Todd revolving around the same thing in terms of, I think you're just like my webcam cut out, Todd, when you were giving your response. I think you may have frozen up. I know I was momentarily. So a couple people asked about your packet pickup and then your corral times.
Well, our packet pickup, we own a running store, local running store, so we do our packet pickup there. We have an area in the front that is designated to people come in, and it's no different than someone going to Walmart or Menards. I mean, we have X's on the ground. You go in and pick it up. We can do it because we have that facility. We can stretch it out over the course of 3 or 4 or 5 days, depending on the size of the event. So we never really have a big crush. It's people coming and going throughout the week getting their packets. So that's how we've been handling our packet pickup, and it's pretty effective. We still have race day. A couple of our events, we have said there will be no race day. You have to pick it up in advance. But of course, there are always the VIPs that rule does not apply to. So we always have to have somebody there to do the packet pickup for that. But that's how we handle our packet pickup. It works fairly well. And what was the other question, Chris? I'm sorry.
In terms of the start times, the corral starting times?
Yeah. Again, it depends on the size of the event, and it depends on where we are in process, whether the event already had participants. We're having a lot of ours that postponed in April and May that are now taking place that already have participants. If it's a fresh race where we have no participants, we use the corral setting in RunSignup, and we just basically set up, we figure how many people, we take a look at first, how many people do we think we can safely have at the facility we're using? That's number one. We think, okay, we can probably handle 500 people here in the course of 2 hours or 3 hours, and that's our number. And then we start putting in, okay, we can do 100 people about every 10 minutes. And so we'll set up 5 corrals, 100 each on RunSignup. And then when you go to register, you pick your starting time window. And if your starting if the time you want to start is closed, then you pick something else. And that seems to work really, really well. And again, it's not just the key isn't just the starting times, it's getting people to come. If we stretch it out over like this last event, we had I think it was 2 hours where the starting line was open, people coming every 10 minutes. And so the most people we would have on premises at any given time would be 150 or so. And they would be filtering in and out throughout the morning. So that's how we handle that. And and we'll get into, I think, dealing with your local governments, but that's the thing that people, race directors have to impress on their local government, is that this is not a 400 people showing up and doing an event. These are people coming and going throughout the day. These are small groups of people filtering in and out throughout the day. That's the key.
Right. Excellent. And so, Megan, we had a question for you revolving around RaceJoy, and if you were allowing people to use it. I know for the challenges, not as much, but have you been using it for any of your other virtual events? And then also, do you foresee continuing the challenges like these for next year and moving forward? Like, do you see this as a potentially permanent additional revenue stream for sports backers?
Yeah, so on the RaceJoy front, we have not utilized it for our challenges or our virtual events. We are, however, relying heavily on it for our 10K, the UCrops Monument Avenue 10K, which is going to take place September 25th through the 27th. Originally scheduled late March, postponed to September 26th, and then 2 weeks ago we announced our format change. So basically, we have we have 4 measured and marked courses around the Richmond region. Here you go, sweetie. We have 4 measured and marked courses around the Richmond region that folks will be able to run from dawn to dusk, the 25th through the 27th, and we will definitely be utilizing RaceJoy for it. All 4 of those courses will be uploaded in RaceJoy, so we'll utilize cheers. The mile markers will be all loaded there. There will be specific leaderboards for each of those measured and marked courses, and of course the 10K folks can also do it virtually anywhere they want as well. But we will be pushing RaceJoy a ton for that, and then also with the marathon. So our Richmond Marathon, which is a full, a half, and an 8K, we're doing a similar format, but instead of multiple courses, it'll just be one out at Dory Park, again, a park in the Richmond region. And we'll utilize the Virginia Capitol Trail, which is a 52-mile paved path running from Richmond to Williamsburg. So it's a protected trail. And with the marathon, we will actually have that course measured and marked and open from November 7th to November 22nd, from 5 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And so again, RaceJoy will be fairly integral to that as well. So I think that's the RaceJoy question. And then the other question about will we continue the virtual challenges? Yes, we are definitely planning to continue a couple of our virtual events, as well as specifically the Great American 5000. So we've actually got the 2021 in this fiscal year's budget. So that'll be an event that we definitely plan to continue. This was a question I know kind of in the pre-questions that we had privilege to see, but we had almost 67% of our registrants were new to our database for Great American 5000. And so that is that just shows us just the amount of opportunity that virtual challenges present. When you're not in person, you're not limited then obviously to the location. And so I know I was blown away by that number being so high. So I think that, for us, that's definitely a reason alone to continue that event, to grow our database and introduce more folks to all the great things we have going on, in addition to it generating revenue.
Excellent. I think we've had a couple questions about this that you all likely can relate to, and that's on the marketing front, especially like social media marketing versus just normal email marketing, and if you change your marketing strategies for how you're doing things now. And we'll start with Jonathan and go around to everyone.
Yeah, so we kept marketing pretty much the same. We did have certain times during the cycle that we laid low, just because of a lot of the stuff going on at the time between coronavirus and then some of the protesting and all that. So we during sensitive times we kind of laid low because we didn't want to come off as annoying or too in your face. But Mostly our marketing stayed the same. We did make more of a shift to again get people to rally around the cause, and I think that was what really made us the most successful. It was less about marketing the race and more about marketing the community, the Center for Safety and Change, and what they did, and supporting your local organizations. They stepped up big time too. I mean, they're always great at helping us market, but they put in an extra push as well to market to their supporters. So we did get a lot of push there. As Megan said, we definitely saw a big increase also in new runners this year. I think we had 19 different states that runners came from, and we actually had some Canadians also, which is just great to see from a local 5K. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, marketing really focused around the charity.
Did you see an uptick in, like, were you pushing the fundraising side?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, definitely pushing the fundraising, setting, kind of setting goals. In the beginning, we set a big goal for fundraising, and once we hit it, kind of pushed that goal, and just kind of kept people going. And then the last big push we did, which turned out to be really good, was the race director actually came in and he said that for the week that the race was open, any donations that came in, he would match. I think we got a good amount of donations that week, and he matched it, so that really helped push us even higher.
Awesome. So, Todd, what about yourself in terms of marketing and not just marketing, but I guess communications on your end too, because obviously you had to instill in your athletes and the community that the way you were holding events was going to be safe, secure, responsible. Did you have to change up what you were doing?
No, not a whole lot. We did get for a couple of the events, the health department and some of the local officials were asking, well, where are you going to market this to? Who is this? Are you going to be bringing in people from outside the area? That was a concern. Right. And so for our first ones, we were saying, no, this is an event we're trying to put on for our local runners. And you see my Keep Running Local shirt. And so that was probably different than we would have ever had to do before. But once we had a couple, our big thing now marketing is we just keep pointing to the events that we have had and the success that we've had. So people understand that, oh, this event's going to happen because the other 4 did as well, and they were done safely. We can take that now to other, if we want to go to other cities or something and show them that, hey, this is done. So we have an example of how it can be done and how it can be done safely. So I guess that's kind of a new wrinkle that we have to promote, but we don't really market it. And then we have tried to, our first round of marketing, because we have an established event management company and we have a running store and we have a timing business, we have a very extensive list of people that we market to anyway. So that's our first round. And we can sometimes break that down to demographics. So we might promote, if I live in Valparaiso, if the race is in Valparaiso, we may promote our first round just to Valparaiso residents and the surrounding area, and then give them first crack to sign up. And then if we have spaces available, then we'll start broadening out that reach. But yeah, and for the most part, we put it out there the way that we have. I mean, was our goal of our event management company to begin with, was to have almost a good housekeeping seal of approval type race. We had a lot of people coming in and out of the area, putting on these janky races, and weren't delivering on their promises. And that was our whole thought was, well, we want to at least put a brand out there that people know if they're doing one of our events, that it's going to, you're going to get what's promised you. It's going to go off in a professional manner. So we just have been building on that with now, the COVID world. And I think people, for the most part, our runners know that we know what we're doing and that we're going to give them a quality, safe event.
Awesome. Megan, how about yourself? Did you guys, dig into Facebook at all for pushing the challenges? Any other avenues that you found successful, since this was a new event? So sure, you guys have an enormous database, but you said you had 67% from elsewhere. So
Yeah.
how did you work that?
Yes, so I think it was a few things. So similar to what Jonathan shared, we did partner with Feeding America, and so we were pretty intentional in selecting a national charity. We are a nonprofit ourselves, and so a lot of times with our events, we love to partner with local nonprofits. We have our own programs as our charity partner on events. But this one, we were pretty intentional about reaching out to Feeding America. So I think that certainly was a cause that resonated, for all of us. And again, it was a big national charity. And so that's one thing that we certainly did differently. And then, we absolutely did digital marketing. I think I mentioned this before. I mean, the reality is we were definitely scared to spend money. We went after some of the more low-hanging fruit, like the partnership with Feeding America. We did right away create a marketing video that we knew we'd want to share and do boosted posts with. We did a ton of that. The video was incredibly well done and very professional. And so we did that right away, which we don't do videos or commercials for all of our events. And then, like I said, we did spend some money on digital towards the end when things were about to kick off. We knew that the window for registration towards the end of the event, of the marketing window, right before that June 14th date when the race actually kicked off, we were going to see a ton of registrants. So we put in money then to really boost posts. We did some Google ads and that kind of thing. And then we did also utilize the RunSignup referral rewards program as well. So we had, different tiers where if a person referred so many people, they would earn Goodard sunglasses. There was another tier where you'd earn a free registration. Another tier, you earned a Great American 5,000 custom hat. And then the final tier was a customized Yeti. And so we did utilize referral rewards as well. That one's interesting. We definitely, we had a ton come through the referral rewards program, but it also was a team event. So for us, like trying to analyze that and know its success, I think it certainly helped, that's for sure. But there's definitely some analysis there, with it being a team event, that it's going to somewhat naturally drive folks to refer others. But hopefully that helps spur it along even more in our eyes. So those were a few things that we did. And I think I may have mentioned this already. We did also right away before we launched, had lined up influencers, some folks to really be out on social media promoting the event on our behalf. So that we had lined up kind of right in line with the launch. So I think that was really critical too.
Very cool. So Todd, I'm going to jump back to you real quick because I think we've had 3 or 4 different people ask. You've alluded to it, and that is your experience with your local government permitting, etc. I know you've probably been asked this like 30 times over the past few months, but we'll get that. And also, while we're at it, someone else asked, how do you manage aid stations, nutrition, post-race, or if you even had anything there for the athletes?
Yeah. You start threatening to sue people and you get a lot of people's attention. That helps. Honestly, our first one was the most difficult. And I think I did that when we did the webinar for the conference. And I want to go into great detail, but a couple days before I think our parks department, someone was going to pull the permit and asked if we would delay it. And at that point in time, I did have to threaten I said, well, we can't do that. We can't delay this. It's been marketed. We spent money. And if you pull the plug on us, we're going to sue you. And we backed that up with a pretty good case study. I used the example of they had opened their golf courses. And I said, this is no different than a golf course. People are signing up for tee times. They're showing up. They're golfing. They're leaving. That's what our runners are doing. I said, so unless you're prepared to shut down your golf courses, we'll file a restraint of trade. And that kind of forced their hand. I think whoever had the problem didn't have a problem that bad that they wanted to deal, get litigious. So, but once we got the first one done and we had a case study, then we could move forward and do the others. A really great example, our local county decided to put a restriction on, I think 2 weeks ago, any group of more than, I think it's 200 now or 150, you have to submit a plan to the health department and get their approval. And what the thought of it was people were having weddings. A group of parents put together a prom, and they had cases that came from these large events. And so we had, at the time they implemented that, we had this 900 person event that was going to take place. And for our local YMCA, health department was all worked up about it. And so we got the approval, but at that event, we had 2 or 3 representatives from the health department there just to kind of, I think, ready to shut it down if it got a little crazy. And when they saw the way that people came in and out and that there wasn't a large mass of people at any given time, that they're filtering in and out, they were just blown away. In fact, we were getting ready to start, and one of the keys that we have is we don't have a starting gun, we don't have a starting whistle or a horn, anything like that. Anything that signifies a start is going to get people to move forward. And as we're getting, what we will do is 15 minutes before the event, we'll say we'll be announcing the opening of the start line, and 15 minutes after that time, you can start your race whenever you're ready, or whenever your time slot is, or what have you. And then the next thing, we're radio silent, and the next thing people hear is, okay, the start line's open, make your way over to the start line when you're ready. And people matriculate over to that start line in little groups and individually. We've been at events where they've tried to line everybody up on dots or X's 6 feet apart. And that's great until the horn goes, and then everybody accordions in. I mean, anyone who's been a start of a large marathon knows what it's like when that horn goes off. Everyone crushes in and it expands, and they crush it again. And so we've purposely done it the way that we do it to avoid any of that. And at the start of this event, the health department was out there trying to line people up 6 feet apart. And I'm running out, I'm like, no, don't do that. And I think the lady at the health department looked at me like she was going to shut us down, because this is her world. I said, just trust me on this. And then we made the announcement 15 minutes later, and all went, and she just came up to me. She goes, that is ingenious. That is perfect. And we pretty much now have carte blanche to do whatever we want in the county. She says we don't even have to submit a plan for our events anymore. All we have to do is let her know it's our event, and we're good. So that's kind of how you have to work with your government and your local officials. Is you got to invite them in, you got to explain to them what you're doing, and then if you have examples, you have to submit it. I'm not going to try to take up everyone's time, but my wife is running a marathon in the 13th of September. And she got the email that they were getting ready to shut it down because they had the same problem. The health department said you had to submit a plan. They submitted the plan. The health department didn't like it. And they had talked about corrals and, people starting every 5 minutes in corrals. And I reached out to the race director for my own selfish reasons, so I did not have to deal with my wife, who had trained for this marathon and I was not going to run. But I said, send me your plan. And he sent it over, and I sent him back something. I said, I would submit it this way and take words out like corrals and wave starts and things like that. Because people have, especially non-runners, but even runners, have envisioned what a starting line looks like. And when you think about waves, you think of a triathlon where everybody's all bunched together waiting for that wave to start. And when you think about corrals, you're corralling people together. And so you have to be very, very deliberate about the phrases you use and the way that you present it. And the success at this, and by the way, they got their plan approved last night, which my wife was very happy about. But I said, you have to present it as it's not a mass gathering, it's an event. You have to put it in terms that people understand. Like, as I put in their plan, I said, if you go to Walmart, or you go to Menards, they are limited to the number of people they can have on premise at any given time, but they are not limited to the number of patrons that can shop at their store on any given day. So having an arbitrary number for an event, if you're coming and going throughout the day, is not fair. You have to say, this is how many people will be on premise at any given time. And that seems to get the health departments and the local governments to kind of at least open their eyes and go, okay, maybe I'm not seeing this right. Sorry for taking so long, but it's a little involved.
You're good. Yeah. Well, it kind of leads into, and since you already, I think, talked about your biggest hurdle or challenge, then it leads in for Jonathan and Megan to kind of cover for their events what the biggest hurdle was, the biggest challenge. Yours is a little bit more clearly defined, Todd, since obviously everyone's looking at that same hurdle for getting back to real in-person racing. However, for going virtual or starting a new event as a virtual challenge, it might be a little bit more abstract. So, Jonathan, what was the biggest challenge for you guys? Switching over.
I think the biggest challenge was that things were different and people didn't know what to do or where to go. And, runners are very, muscle memory. They show up race morning, they know where to go. They know there's packet pickup. I get my bib. There's the porta potty. I wait over here. I stretch. I do the national anthem. I go to the start line. The gun goes off and I run. I know I'm guilty of it. When I go to a race, it's like you don't even think. You just you go through the motions. You've done it so many times. So what we kind of dealt with was, imagine having a 1,200 person event and it's everyone's first 5K. So it's kind of, where do I go? What do I do? But it was all virtual. So it was a lot of questions. And I think that's the biggest thing I could tell people is if you're switching to virtual and it's your first time, have support crew. Just to be there to answer emails. As good as you think you have things outlined on the website, as many emails as you've sent saying this is what you have to do, this is where you have to go, people are going to call you, they're going to email you. I can't tell you how many questions we had of people like, where do I see the results? And it's as simple as saying you go to the website and click results, and why didn't I think of it? It's like these people aren't used to it, so everything just seems different and foreign. The nice thing is next year, I know we're planning to continue having a virtual event, even if we can have the in-person event again. But people are trained now, and it's the more people that know, now there's a new muscle memory, so they'll know how to do it next year. But yeah, that was definitely our biggest challenge, is just getting people to learn the new process.
And if I can add on to that, we have the same thing, even though it's a live in-person event, because we're doing things differently with the corrals. And it doesn't matter how much you put it in your website, how much you email people, have the capacity to deal with a flood of emails and Facebook messages. And if they get your phone, God help you, text messages, because our marathon, half marathon we're putting on, the very first item says certified course, Boston qualifier. I have gotten 300 emails. Is this a Boston qualifier? So just plan on it.
I think one great thing that we've been doing, and it's again just another great way to support your local running community and keeping everything going, is we've reached out to our timer, just the timer that does all of the races in the area that we've known for decades. And they're coming on to help us as support, because they can't, for the virtual races we're having now, they can't be their race day, so they're losing that revenue, they're losing that day. So we're hiring them to just help us with support, so that way we're helping them, they're helping us, and we're keeping that relationship alive. And it's a win-win for everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can certainly echo on just the email front with the virtual challenges. The customer service aspect was, for a challenge, which it's running from June 14th to September 14th, and there are people kind of active with this challenge every day. I'd say the emails certainly have subsided, but there was just a longer window of customer service related emails, just because, again, people were interacting with us daily for a few weeks. And so unlike an in-person event, they register and maybe there's a quick question before or after to confirm something. And then, you've got a couple months until you kind of hear from them again with a question. Okay, sorry, my daughter unplugged me there. So, that was just different. I think just that window of time where you're working through customer service response. And then, I've kind of already mentioned this before, but fulfillment and that ordering piece was definitely a challenge, just kind of knowing what to order and then having to fulfill it all. We did all of that internally with our staff and then volunteers. And so that's just a lot of staff time. And then finally, one thing that we were really, really intentional about, and this was more of an opportunity. It was a challenge, but it turned into one of our bigger opportunities, was just the level of engagement that we had with participants. Basically, as everyone entered a new state, as they traveled across the country, they were getting a welcome to email, and that email would then outline some quick facts about that state. It'd give you the temperature, some cool attractions that you could have seen along the route. And so it was just high engagement. So we sent out 12 of these throughout the course of people's journey across America. And so, you know, that creation of content is a challenge. But again, in the end, it's a huge opportunity as we move forward with our Great European event. Those you can really see where sponsors can be a part of those. And so again, that challenge, I think, you know, we're going to be able to quickly turn into an opportunity. And it's one of the things that the participants enjoyed the most, because it wasn't like they were just running and logging miles. We were very highly engaged with them. So that was a cool opportunity for us in the end too.
Awesome. And it sounds like all of you in some way, shape, or form had the hurdling communicating with your athletes. And I will say that for you guys, I'm sure know this, but for some of our attendees, if you're ever on RunSignup.com, just the actual homepage, for those of you that are race directors, you might not actually go to the homepage that frequently, but there's a support link there on the homepage, and the drop down, or I think it's actually learning, and then support, and it's an FAQ setup. What we found is you can copy and paste a lot of our content, and you don't have to respond with, you know, paragraphs of how to do something or how to change something, because there's pictures and stuff like that. It's a really nice way to cut down some time on interacting with the same question over and over and over again.
Chris, real quick,
Yeah.
I realized I did not answer part of your question.
Oh, no, you're
As
fine.
far as support on the course, I would recommend anybody, if you haven't done an in-person event during this, start very simple and slowly. For our first races, we basically said, you show up, there'll be no course support, no medical, no anything. You're on your own. It was in a cooler time of the year now that it's getting hot. We're still saying that, but we have gotten individual water bottles that we set out at the finish line, and we basically just space them out in little bundles all over the finish area, and we kind of lead people away from the finish. So if you're going to get something, you have to kind of walk down the sidewalk, and you can get a bottle of water or whatever. So we have kind of up that, and again, we're doing a marathon, half marathon. We are going to have water stops. They're going to have individual water bottles and individual Gatorades, and we have, you know, individual gel packs. I built some. They basically look like large barricades, but they have a flat top, 2x4 flat on the top, so we can basically just set water bottles out. They're 12 feet long, and so you can put 4 of them, and people, you know, put 6 of them out. People can go grab a water bottle and not be close to anyone else, and then when that bottle's gone, a volunteer goes and replaces it. So we have been doing a little bit more, but our first events, we pretty much said, we want to see how this thing flows. You know, as the saying goes, a person is smart, but people are stupid. And you get a collection of them, you know, no telling what they're going to do. So as we saw how things played out, we were able to add different features and add a little bit more support as we went along.
Perfect. Well, we're at the 1 hour mark. Do you guys have any parting thoughts? I know we have tons and tons of questions. If we sat here, we would be here until tomorrow. And so I will say, for those of you attending that are thinking about holding an in-person event or needing help with setting up a virtual challenge, or even going virtual halfway through, communicate with your timer. if you don't have timing in-house, your timer can be a great resource, and because so many of them are training on a lot of these tools, and they can support you. You know, they normally support you at your regular event, and so this is a great place for you guys to kind of continue that, building that rapport, and they can help you with a lot of these tools that we've discussed today. So with that being said, you guys have any parting thoughts, words of wisdom before we wrap up and log off?
Just anybody has a question on live events, always feel free to shoot me an email. It's Todd, T-O-D-D, at thtiming.com. T as in Tom, H as in Henry, and the word timing.com. And I will be happy to get back with you. And as you might guess, if it's kind of a silly question, you may get a silly response. So know that going in.
Megan, any parting words for people looking to start their own virtual challenges?
You know, I think that no idea is too crazy. I think about where the Great American came from, and you know, it was in a 4-hour kind of staff brainstorm session, and honestly, it was one that you know, we pursued later. In fact, we announced it way later than we probably would have liked, and so I think, you know, working with RunSignup and just the tools that you guys are putting out there, it's definitely making the challenges a lot more engaging, and that's been really great. So we've been really appreciative of that partnership for sure too. So yeah, and just remember, you know, as I find that this stat so staggering that we had 67% new people to our database, that the virtual space certainly breaks down that barrier of location, and so that for me has been a big takeaway, and so I definitely would like to share that again. So
awesome. Jonathan, anything about going from a real race to virtual?
Yeah, I think I'd just say in general, you know, as we were saying before, that runners on race day kind of go into, you know, zombie mode and just do what they're used to doing. I think we all do the same. So this is, you know, it's a tough time right now and things are completely different, but it's a great opportunity to just get creative and look at things completely differently. Just think outside the box, talk to people. I think that's the biggest thing, whether it's your local businesses, your local charities, your local government, or, you know, folks like us, other runners around the country that are doing this sort of thing. Just talk to people and see what's going on, see what they're doing, and pull as many ideas as you can. All you need is one aha moment, and that could change everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate all of you joining us, and thanks to all the attendees and all the questions, keeping things going. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My email address is crisp@runsignup.com. And yeah, the next session, I believe, for all 3 sessions begins at 2 o'clock. And we have the hybrid event set up, Giving Tuesday campaigns, and virtual results and bids set up. So those are the 3 topics that begin at 2 p.m. Eastern. So thank you guys for joining us. Again, thank you to the panel, and we look forward to hearing from everybody soon. So take care, and we'll talk to you soon.